Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Grand Prix before the Grand Prix. You're watching Sim Experience South Africa Formula 1 Saturdays. I'm your commentator, Jan Karinas, and I'll be running you through today's action here at the Mercedes-dominated Sochi Autodrome. One of Herman Tilke's more recent creations, Sochi is prone to being one of the more controversial circuits on the F1 calendar. It's located next to the Black Sea in the resort town of Sochi. Sochi Autodrome is remarkably flat. Thanks to a maximum elevation change of 1.8 meters, I can comfortably say that a few of our racers and myself are a little bit taller than an official F1 circuit. While the track lacks in undulations, it makes up for in utter chaos. Tricky braking zones, straights that only loosely adhere to the definition, and both super fast and super slow sections. Sochi is a mix between a street circuit and a high-speed circuit such as Silverstone. Drivers do need to be careful, however, because in Mother Russia, you don't run into the barrier runs into you. Welcome and good evening to all of you wonderful people logging in on the YouTube channel and also watching this after the fact. We are live with Sim Experience South Africa Formula 1 Saturdays. Apologies for the audio issues there at the start. I just had my mic throw a few errors there, but you should be able to hear me. And unfortunately, we're seeing Raymond Duggan already having a bit of a rough start there. It is only practice, so the drivers are still getting acquainted to the track, but Sochi is one of those tracks that kind of makes it a bit difficult for the drivers themselves, and is maybe going to give us a little bit more to look out for than we might have bargained for. I already see Sharon Skuman there on the YouTube channel saying hi to everyone. Of course, good luck to the hubby and the rest of Sim Race Extreme, and it's always nice to see some of the teams join us here. So Sharon, of course, shouting for Marius Skuman, who is running in the Alpine livery. I'll have to tell you whose number that is in a second. I'm not remembering as well. And then René Deploy also saying good luck to everyone. Hearing that quite a few drivers in the rear will unfortunately, I struggled reading that a little bit and commentating at the same time, but we unfortunately lost a few of our drivers to real world responsibilities, so we're looking at a bit of a thinned herd here tonight. Currently we can see in session we've got Corne Breed, Gideon Jonkers, Marius Skuman, Raymond Duggan, Gerard Pretorius, Joshua van Rensburg, Dirk Brandt, Pieter van Rensburg, Rob van der Heever, Gert Snijman, and of course Dennis Mitchell representing Sim Experience itself. And one of my favorite names to read out on this commentating or in this commentating booth is Gijsbert Attinagel, who's unfortunately not come out of the pits yet, but it's always confusing because it's always his first name that appears, but he calls himself by his second name, so it's always a bit of a tricky experience. Just having a quick look at the track map, you've got that turn 1, which is not really much of a turn. It's basically flat in these cars, but it just breaks up that start-finish straight a little bit and basically eliminates any chance you have of passing. So it's really going to depend on what the drivers are going to be able to do on the tire strategies here. Kind of getting in those fast laps. The herd has been thinned, so it's going to be a bit easier to run out in clean air, and it's going to come down to who's the fastest on track. You might see some people maybe going for a bit of an undercut. All depends on how that first turn, or that, well, I say first turn number 2 is going to go. And moving on to turn number 2, it is one of the more trickier corners on the circuit, just because it's all of the frustrations of turn 1 boiling into the next turn, because that is kind of the next overtaking opportunity, but there's a bit of a weird one. So it's expect a bit of chaos. And then turn 3, of course, just a long left-hander sweep, high speed, so you need a bit of downforce, but it's still going to be quite fast. And then turn 4 and 5, I mean, this is a tilted track, so you're seeing a lot of 90-degree turns. Turn number 6, not much to write home about here. Turn 7, 8, again, it's kind of same old, just going right and then left. Turn 9, I don't know how they've classified that as a turn, but maybe just a little bit of a flick with the compass. Turn 10, again, just 90-degree right-hander, but this time a very important one, as it goes on to, and I use this term very loosely, the back straight. I don't know what geometry school Herman Tilke went to, but apparently that is a straight. So we've got a DRS zone that winds through a bit of a kind of an S section. It looks a bit sharper than it is in real life. And then, of course, we've got that turn 12 and 13. There, I think it's turn 12 that's the one that Carlos Sainz unfortunately had a huge accident on. So this last sector of the track, a very, very tricky one. So expect some slip-ups from the drivers. It's all going to come down to unforced errors. So turn 14, 15, 16, all very slow. And you might think, okay, you need a bit of downforce, but then the rest of the track is so fast. So it's really difficult to set up the car for this track. Then, of course, you've got the pit entry just before turn 17 there, and then just it feels like a weird double apex corner because it's 90 degree, but you don't have much of an acceleration zone between those two corners, and then you're onto the main straight, and it's doing it all over again. Just a quick note, 5.872 kilometers for the entirety of the track. That is the 4th longest circuit on the calendar. So if I consult my notes and just check again, the only tracks on calendar that are longer than this one is going to be Spa, Baku, and Silverstone. So it's essentially just an extremely long street circuit, but Baku is a bit different than this one. So they're kind of in the same category and also not. So expect some interesting racing. Just looking at the weather, 20 degrees Celsius air temperature, so fairly cool. I mean, we're right next to the Black Sea, and we're starting to get ready for winter. Not yet, but the seasons are starting to swap in that part of the world. 26 degrees Celsius for the track. It's fairly cool. Not so cold that you can't switch on the tires, but it's just that nice temperature. And then, of course, we're running 3 o'clock in the afternoon as per usual. I apologize. Let me just quickly see if I can switch this off for you. Okay, that's going to be a bit of a struggle. There we go. So just having a quick look at our standings for the championship, and we've got Raymond Duggan leading, well, not leading, in a joint battle for the lead with Marius Kuman. So Raymond Duggan with 49 points, Marius Kuman also 49. Dennis Mitchell with the Red Bull for 33 points. Quite the coincidence. And then Corne Briet with 33 points as well. After them, it's going to be Philip Menard, 27 points in the Ferrari, and then Gerrit Pretorius with 27. So we've got a joint battle for first and second, a joint battle for third and fourth, and then a joint battle for fifth and sixth. So quite close all the way up to the top, and it's going to come down to who's got that consistency into the rest of the season. Last time we were racing at Monza, it was Philip Menard that actually took the win, and then Corne Briet securing that second place. So it's done him wonders in his points, and you can see Philip Menard kind of just catching up. Gerard Pretorius and third position last time, and Maurice Kuman in fourth. So he lost out a little bit there in Monza. So hopefully Sochi is going to suit him a little bit more. He's got the support for him. So it's going to be fun to see how he does along here. Then rest of the pack, Jason Macbeth, 26 points, Gert Nijman, 22, Jude Stewart, 18 points, Joshua van Rensburg, 18 points, Alistair Barnard, 17 points, Dirk Brandt, 15, Mornay Deploy, 12, John Stewart, also 12, then Rob van der Heever with 9 points, Gideon Jonkers, 5, Gijsbert Attinagel, 4, Willem Stein, 3 points, and then Peter van Rensburg in the Williams with 2, and Sean Denham logging in to the series, but no real points to show for it as of yet. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to quickly send you to an ad break while I just reconfigure the visuals. Just a bit of a shout out to Mornay de Deploy, who does our video work for us. I mean, it's kind of made this series quite exciting. And he is there in the YouTube chat with us. Just quickly checking. I do not see his name in the series at the moment, so he might have just not had the time to do the qualifying for the main race. But I'll see you in about 30 seconds. And we are back. So welcome back. And yeah, we are getting along with qualifying. So currently just looking at Maurice Kuban. In terms of times, Corné Breeds has already put in a blistering 134.831. It's quite quick. If we look at some of the previous times, the 2019 Russian Grand Prix, we've got a time for Lewis Hamilton at 135.761. I think Corné might want to give Lewis a little bit of a call because he might be needing it this weekend. The world champion looking a little bit flustered, as there's quite a bit of the field bringing the talent at the moment. Of course, awesome for us as F1 fans. But a bit of a rough one for the defending world champion. So Corné already doing a superb job. Of course, maybe not comparable to the recent car. This isn't the 2019 car. And it is going to be a little bit faster than that. But the qualifying times that we've got thus far, we've had a wet qualifying in Sochi, so it's not going to be that comparable. That being said, right behind Corné Breed is Maurice Kuman with a 135.501, so already looking good for the man in blue. But then Joshua van Rensburg in another one of the blue cars, the Williams, looking good with a 135.639. I think if he can do that in qualifying, he's going to be extremely happy with that. And then Gerard Pretorius, the last man in the 135s during practice. Now, that being said, some of these guys might be running some qualifying runs. Some race stint runs with race fuel. At the moment, there's a bit of a mixture with the tires. So you can see Joshua there running with the C4, the softer compound. And then Corné Breed is sitting on the C3 tire. Now, Corné has been known to kind of run on the harder tire. I don't know if he drives with a bit of a heavier slip angle and kind of warms up the tires very quickly. So he might be reverting to that harder compound to both run longer into the race, but maybe to keep temperatures under control. but he's been known to make those harder tires work, and it might be doing him quite well if he can go for an overcut on these cars. So it's going to be interesting to see what he runs in the qualifying session itself. 8 minutes left. It's already been feels like such a short time just talking to everyone. But we are gearing up for qualifying. If you are on the YouTube channel, I see there's a few of you. Feel free to say hi and give your shout outs. Dennis Mitchell dropping into the 135s. So welcome to him as well. He's of course running in the Red Bull number 33. Thankfully for this gentleman right here, there's no back of the grid penalty, so he's going to be doing as well as he can during qualifying, and we'll see where he ends up. But track position is going to be crucial here. It's going, I think because we're such a small pack, it might not be as difficult to and a bit of a tricky situation there for the other drivers to keep out of the way, but it's going to be a bit easier for the drivers to keep it clean. There's a bit more of a disparity in terms of the times that these drivers have been doing. So Sochi is normally a bit chaos prone, but I expect to see a little bit less just because we are a smaller field. So everything looking good for very, very clean, but also really exciting race. I think we might have some battles in the mid-pack. 6 minutes left, and at this point I think the drivers are just kind of getting the rhythm in. It's very important just before qualifying to really get your mindset set accordingly, kind of preparing yourself for what is to come. And of course you really need to think about strategy. It is a bit of a different situation that some of these drivers might have been preparing for, so I'm wondering whether they might have been adapting the strategies accordingly. It's a bit difficult if you don't know exactly what tire pressures you'll be running. You kind of need the practice and the data to really figure out, okay, what type of pressures you want to run with the tires for specific situations. I mean, you're not going to run the same pressures on your softs that you would run on your mediums if you were aiming for a substantially long distance. If you inflate the tires a little bit harder, you've got that smaller contact patch, but also a cooler tire and a bit less rolling resistance. So it's all going to depend on what you prefer as a driver. If you like to break the grip of the rear tires, then you might prefer a bit of a smaller contact patch, maybe a little bit less downforce on the rear of the car to make it a bit more lively, get that car rotated into these difficult 90-degree corners. But not everyone can make use of that strategy. It's you might also not have the proper equipment. I know you need very good pedal control if you want to rotate it under throttle like that. And if you've got a G29 or 920, which is a bit more of an entry-level piece of sim racing gear, then you might not have the degree of control that you would have with a set of load cell pedals. That being said, there are drivers that have proved us wrong. It is easy for some of the drivers to kind of be good on the cheaper equipment. So it's all going to depend on what the drivers are comfortable with. But if you can get the car to rotate like that, it's going to benefit you massively. It was also quite funny looking at the Formula 1 broadcast and seeing the commentators kind of arguing about whether this is a front limited or a rear limited circuit. I would expect from the 90-degree corners you might get a bit of a front limitation on these cars, but the traction of the circuit itself is fairly low. The asphalt is not that grippy. So especially with a bit more of a greener circuit, it might be that your rear tires just don't have the grip, and especially if you want to run a bit less downforce on the cars. Just having a bit of a look at our YouTube chat again. I'm just quickly waiting for the streaming software to catch up with me. Gareth Snyman in the 137s, still on the softer compound tires, so he's still getting used to it. So yeah, hello there to Dirtbunt as well. So he's quickly just checking in on the stream. He's currently sitting in the pits, just waiting for qualifying to come around, and maybe just checking out what his opponents are doing. So welcome to you as well. And then us in front corner is just having an absolute blast of a time on the C3 tires. Only driver to go sub 35 at the moment. So he's been putting in a fair amount of practice. He's kind of our residential high downforce specialist. I know some of the drivers are really good on high downforce cars, but Cornet has been running in prototypes as well. So he has a fair experience with a vast array of cars when it comes to those relying on downforce for their grip. Skuma now very close to breaking the 134s with a 135.031. A very respectable time. So he's going around on the softer tire, and he's going to try and get that extra bit of mechanical grip to work for him. So yeah, looking forward. Another turn to just look out for, and that's kind of on the bottom of the circuit on the on-screen display, is turn number 6. You can kind of see one of the cars going through it now. Also, a very tricky corner in terms of some of the track limits. So I think it's there that we've got the bollards set up. I'll just have to double check again when we're in qualifying, and then we'll just check. But no bollards in the simulator itself, but you do need to be careful when you rejoin the track itself, because you do not want to step out in front of one of the cars in front of you. It's a very easy way to ruin both your own race and that of those drivers around you. But these drivers have been very respectable, or have shown a great amount of respect to one another in the past. So we shouldn't have an issue like that. We shouldn't. Whereas now going through the long turn number 3, and you'll see him just keeping up the speed. It's not the easiest corner to really make an overtake. And there, I think I might have been mistaken. It's turn number 5. That's the one with the track limits. So Mara is jumping into the pits, and he's going to be preparing himself for qualifying. Dennis Mitchell pulling off track, seeing the timer has gone off. Joshua van der Rensburg still fancies a spot of practice for himself. And he's actually going to come into the pits. So just practicing that pit entry as well. We have seen this is a very, very difficult pit entry to get right. Okay, now that was not an intentional commentator's curse, but that just shows that that pit entry is indeed quite tricky. So hopefully the drivers have practiced both that and the race start. Perhaps Neyman still just going around the track a little bit, just getting in that extra bit of practice. Once he comes into the pits, or gets kicked to the pits, depends on which one comes first. I'm going to send you to a quick ad break. Just showcasing one of our other series that we're currently running, the Mazda MX-5 series. So we'll run a bit of an ad for that, and then we'll be back with qualifying. So just stay right here with us. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The drivers have exited the pits. They are on their way, and we are ready to see some qualifying action right here at Sim Experience South Africa. Just joined us. We are currently busy with the Formula 1 Saturdays race. So our drivers are attempting Sochi in the Formula 1 cars, and it's going to be the first few qualifying laps. Them and Duggan just getting ready and set up for that last few turns. Unfortunately, bit of a crash there, so that's going to be him out of the running for that. Just quickly picking out some of the drivers currently on their faster laps. So Gideon Jonkers, first man to cross the line, and he is going to find a massive amount of pace compared to his outlap. So just making the rounds there for turn number 3, 4 and 5. And now heading through sector 2 of the circuit. Still one of the faster sectors. You can see the brakes just glowing red hot. Those 90-degree turns not offering too much of a brake. You need to go through them as quick as possible. And here you need to get that perfect exit. Jonkers using as much of the track as he dares as he goes onto the back straight and setting himself up for a very, very solid lap. Now into the third sector of the circuit, and this is kind of where you need a bit of extra downforce, but you can't afford to really dial it in on the car. So it makes this just so much more difficult for the cars around here. Now, while the back end of the circuit, our timing screens are not going to be as quick to update. So I'll just have to quickly pull the data from the screen. So Jonkers going around, and his last lap being a 1:35.926. So still a bit of time to be found there compared to some of the previous laps that we had, and he's unfortunately found the wall. Maurice Skuman making his second attempt, already finding a few tenths, but right on the cusp of it, as the time kind of goes back and forth. Through the back portion of the circuit, and he's still very, very close to what he's previously done. Just quickly looking around, Dennis Mitchell also very close, setting purple sectors on his previous lap. So with quite a bit of a fast lap in hand, he is going to find some traffic in front of him. So he might be able to catch a little bit of a drop if he can get close enough. But I think his concentration might have wavered a little bit there as he's lost 2 tenths on the lap right there. Corey Briet out in front. Previous lap a 1:34.390. So doing an absolute superb job, and that's going to be a tough one for the other drivers to really find an answer for. Gerard Pretorius onto a new lap, and we will actually, before we go on board with him, Conrad Brett, Dennis Mitchell and Marius Skuman all logging times on the timing board, and Dennis Mitchell actually jumping into the 1:34s. Marius Skuman, the next driver up the line, almost a second gap between Mitchell and Skuman. Then the man on your screen at the moment, Gerard Pretorius, with a 1:36, so another second gap, not entirely, but very close. and then Dirk Brandt with a 137. So still some improvement to come from those drivers. You can see Gerard Pretorius already finding 4/10 only through half of the circuit, so there's still quite a bit of time to be gained if you can get those turns nailed just right. So he is absolutely flying at the moment. 6/10, looking very solid. A nice bit of a time gain there through the back straight. And now coming around the back portion of the circuit, he's finding even more time, although I have spoken a little bit too soon. That last exit costing him 2/10, so a bit of a tricky section, this last sector. And you can see he's still got some improvements to be found. But that's going to be a 5/10 improvement. Gerard Pretorius 136 flat. And that's going to be placing him that much closer to Raymond Duggan, who just jumped into 4th place. You can see the other drivers now filing in. Van Rensburg, 6th place, 136.045. So very, very close to Pretorius. Snyman 136.696. Brandt 137, still 137. Gideon Jonkers jumping up with a 135.276. So also very close to the 134s. So we might be seeing some more drivers going into that area. Joshua van Rensburg on a bit of a slow lap. We'll just stay on board with him as he's going to be hunting down Gerard Pretorius there. 12 minutes left of qualifying, so time has been absolutely flying. And Joshua van Rensburg absolutely nailing the exit of that last corner, already finding a 10th down the main straight. Now he's got that high speed left-hander. He's got a car in front of him, so he might be able to catch a bit of a draft going down the main, the back straight. You just need to be careful that you don't get into the dirty air of the car in front of you when you get into that 3rd sector. It's already difficult enough doing that sector with a slightly reduced amount of downforce, but doing that sector with dirty air in front of you as well is going to be absolute murder on your lap times. I think he has bailed out of that one, struggling with some of the corners there, so he's decided to rather regroup and make another attempt. Gert Snyman in the 136s and still on an outlap, so we'll leave him alone for the time being. Gideon Jonkers, no time improvement for him. Corné Briet on an outlap, so he is very, very close to starting a new lap, so we'll sit on board with him and see what you need to do to get into the 134s on the circuit. Extremely tricky seeing past the halo on this track, especially with some of the straights and how flat it is. It's a nice hard braking for that almost 90-degree turn. Get the car nice and hooked in over the apex. Not too many sausage curbs to discourage you from doing that. You can see it's aggressive on the curbs right there, opening up the corner as much as he dares. Now you've got some of the sausage curbs that you need to avoid, so get your wheel up right next to it. Bit of a right-hander turn before you get into the actual turn itself. And I think Corné was not happy with how that was going, so he's bailed out of that one. So we'll pick up where Corné Briet left off, and Dennis Mitchell. Now the same portion, here's where we left off with Corné Briet. Now you'll see just how tricky these braking zones get. So you barely have time to straighten the car before the braking zones, so it's very important to get that car into position. Now tucking into the wall as close as possible. You need to open up this corner now over to the left hand side and immediately braking hard. This is where Carlos Sainz had that accident of his. So easy to lock up the brakes, you don't have the car straight by the time they arrive at the corner. Again, getting that car straight for the braking zone is absolutely crucial. And you've got that quick swap of direction. Now, two right-handers here before the main straight. Let's get the car turned in, get it positioned right. Another right-hander turn, and it's onto the power for the main straight. As Mitchell almost doing exactly the same time that he's previously done, so he's definitely capable of the 134s. He's find it to be possible. Just a shout out there for Hen Zero, shouting for Gert Snyman and also for Dennis Mitchell. So some support for the sim experience South Africa drivers as well, although I don't know about Gert Snyman that specifically. So all the drivers currently struggling a little bit. I think their tires might be wearing down a little bit and losing some of its usefulness, so they might be going in for fresh tires. As I say that, Dennis Mitchell jumping into the pits, so he's still got a few minutes to make a good run out of it. Leon Jonkers finding only the smallest amount of time, and I think his exit onto the back straight was not ideal. So the only time that he can gain will be into this final sector, and I think his tires might not be up to the task. It's going to be interesting to see how the tires degrade here, because the track shouldn't be degrading the tires as quickly. That being said, it is quite a long lap distance. So we'll see how the drivers manage with the tires as the race continues. Joshua van Rensburg still on a bit of an outlap, so we'll come back to him a little bit later. Dirk Brandt making a bit of room for some of the drivers around him. We'll quickly see if he's going to go onto a faster lap. He doesn't have much time if he wants to come into the pit for fresh tires, so I would only imagine that he's going to go for a few more laps. Not the fastest exit out of the last corner. He might be preparing to set up for the race. In terms of the tyre strategies, Corne Briet qualifying on the medium C3, Dennis Mitchell on the C4, so the higher the number, the softer the compound. So Dennis Mitchell on the softer compound for the start, so the red wall tyres. And then Raymond Duggan jumping into third position with a 135.222, and he's done that on the C4 compound as well. So position 2 and 3 on the softer compound, that might be putting them in a better position for the race start. Gideon Jonkers in fourth position on the harder C3 compound, so that's going to be good if you want to run a bit long into the race, maybe perform some kind of overcut. And then Marius Skuman, next driver on the soft compound. Joshua van Rensburg also preferring the soft for his qualifying. Gert Snyman, C3 compound, so he's going hard or harder. And then Gerard Pretorius, C4, Dirk Brandt, C4, Peter van Rensburg, and Rob van Heever, all opting for the softer tyre. So preferring a bit of a higher level of grip. Britt on an absolute flyer of a lap at the moment, finding 3/10. So he's going to come through the last sector of the track, and we'll just keep an eye out to see what he manages to do right here. That's a perfect entry for that last 90-degree turn, and he's going to come across the line and into the 133, so 133.880. So that is the nail in the coffin for most of the grid. We'll see whether Dennis Mitchell has an answer for that. That is going to be extremely tricky. That is an absolute flyer of a lap. Gideon Jonkers finding a little bit of time. Just starting a flying lap, so we'll stay on board with him and see if he can pop himself onto the front row grid. It's going to be a bit of a tall ask, but he is also just 5/100ths of a second away from Raymond Duggan. And if you can position yourself on that cleanest side of the racing line in third position, I mean, that's going to be absolutely ideal if he can pull that off. That being said, he still needs to execute on it. Kind of finding and losing time all over the place, so he's still struggling with consistency over the entirety of the lap, but he's definitely fast through the corners. And showing that he's been very competitive in that Ferrari all the way since the start of the season. So we picked up the season in Silverstone, and he's been racing with us all the way from the start in the same livery. Oh, and that is so unfortunate. A bit of an early turn in from Prix and he is correct and turn out of it to avoid that sausage curve. I mean, that could have been some big damage to the front of his car, possibly to the floor as well. I mean, those things are really pronounced, and he is going to have to go again. Although you do have to ask whether that battery in the car has been depleted. Morris Skuman, also a bit to and fro. We'll see how he does through this last sector of the track. Probably the best sector to gain time, since it's so difficult to get this series of corners right. Morris kind of missing the apex there, and I think that's what cost him their very, very late turn in, kind of tightening the corner a little bit for himself. So that last sector just showing how difficult it is to get a coherent lap together. I mean, all these drivers have shown a very high level of skill, so it's definitely not that they're bad drivers. It's just that last sector of the track is so tricky. So Morris, come on, going for it yet again. And I think it's about 2 laps left for everyone. It all depends on when that timer runs out. So if you wanted to do another lap and you're in the pits, you are out of luck. So Dennis Mitchell is unfortunately not going to get another time in. I think Kilian Jonkers just left the pits, and he's going to be hard pressed to get a time in. We'll see whether the system allows him to do it. Simulator is a little bit forgiving when it comes to when you get that qualifying lap in and when it does count. So Mario's unfortunately not finding the time that he would want, and we are coming around now. So Joshua van Rensburg, the first one to cross the line, and this is probably going to be his last qualifying lap. Timer will run out while he is still busy with this. So we'll just keep an eye on him. He wants to really get away from Gert Snyman just behind him. Just 30 or 3/100 separating the two of them. So he ideally wants to just secure that position a little bit more than it currently is. So we're probably going to see a very, very close battle between all of the drivers currently in P3 all the way down to, let's say, P7, P8. So the midfield battle for this race is going to be quite hard. Corner Breer doing an absolute stellar pace on, and that's unfortunately a bit of a lock up there for Joshua, so that's going to be him done. Morris Skuman finding a little bit of time. So he's fallen down the order a little bit. He's been struggling with that third sector, being the bit of a tougher sector for him. All of the drivers in front of him, position 1, 2, 3, and 4. So Beard and Mitchell already done with the laps. Duggan not on a particularly fast lap at the moment. Kilian Jonkers also on a slow lap as well. So Skuman the closest to improving, and this is the sector on the track that really kills it for him. So let's see if he can get it nailed down. This time he is hitting that apex, and he immediately see the improvement on time. And it's now only 2 corners left for him. He's got a fairly good improvement in hand. hitting that apex once again, looking very neat for Marius Kuman. Oh, and just over the curb, but the line is thankfully very close, and he jumps into 4th position. So Marius Kuman very close to the 135's Gerard Pretorius jumping into 6th position, and of course being that close to Van Rensburg, making the improvements and getting there. Leon Jonkers, unfortunately, no improvements as well. Gerard Pretorius in the pits. Gert Snyman still on track. I can't imagine why he's going out now. That looked like he was coming out of the pits. So I would only imagine that he's getting a cheeky little bit of practice in on the tires. So remember, the tire that you qualified on is the one that you start on. Jonkers pulling off track at the moment. Once the session kicks over, I'm sending you to a bit on that. Just see you right now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you've got your vodka in hand, now is the time to take it, as the drivers are preparing to get started. Out in front, we've got Corne Briet sitting on pole, just waiting for the lights to get going. And we're just waiting for the race director to get us started. So, front grid, Corne Briet, Dennis Mitchell, and then Raymond Duggan in 3rd position, with Marius Kuman there on the inside of the track in the 4th position. So everything looking good for the race start right here. Everyone's revving the engines. We don't have the lights out yet, so still waiting for those lights. Now 4, 5, 6 lights, and we are ready to get going. So very good start there for both Britt and Dennis, but Britt coming off the inside line and immediately getting past by Mitchell and Skuman. Skuman, the winner out of that whole situation, as he charges out in front. Duggan very close behind him. And then on the inside, I think that's the car of Leon Jonkers trying to go on the inside of Gerard Pretorius. Unfortunately, losing out there, losing multiple positions. Back out in front, Mitchell now a bit further down in the pack they would want to be. Corne Briet struggling with the start there on the 3 tires. The C4 compound runners getting away quite nicely there. Marius Kuman opening up a monumental gap right from the get-go, 8 cents already, as the rest of the cars follow closely behind. Dennis Mitchell in the number 33 car there, under pressure from Corne Briet, and then behind them as well, you can see Gerard Pretorius just there on the rear wing of Corne Briet. Of course, for Corne, this is going to be the long run. Further down the pack, Leon Jonkers under pressure from Joshua van Rensburg. Bit of a battle here between the two of them. He's just sat on the rear of the car there down the straight. He's going to position himself for the outside of the turn on the next corner. Jonkers trying to outbrake him, hopping over the curb there, and van Rensburg taking some evasive action and falling in right behind him as well. Out in front, sorry, back to the battle there. Leon Jonkers unfortunately getting overtaken there by Joshua van Rensburg. Sorry for that Lance Stroll moment there, but I was trying to go to these two right here. So Duggan under pressure from Mitchell as we go into the second lap. And the drivers are settling into their positions. Unfortunately, a huge gap developing between the front four runners and the rest of the grid. Back there in the background, you can see 3 wide into the first corner. And Van Rensburg deciding to back out of that. Gideon Jonkers bullying his way into 6th position with some nerves of steel as he heads into the long left-hander. Doing a superb job of getting ahead. Conrad Brett and Farah Pretorius in a bit of a battle here for 4th position. I can't imagine that Brett really wants to battle Pretorius here. He's just going to try and hold on to the position, but Brett is running along on those C3 tires. Front 3 runners all on C4, so the softer compound, and then Farah Pretorius, the closest runner on the C4s. Also the pack now settle into position. Bert Sneeman slightly out of position there in position 11 as he starts fighting his way into the rest of the pack. Brett still holding off Pretorius behind, and Pretorius slightly struggling with the dirty air as they head into the third sector of the track. The very difficult kind of street-like one. Marius Kumar doing a superb job out in front. You can already see him massively improving on his lap time, but Dennis Mitchell is hunting him down. Dennis Mitchell, first driver into the 135s, and he is going to give Skuman something to think about as they head into the first corner. Further down the pack, Gideon Jonkers and Joshua van Rensburg leading the rest of the field. So first few front runners, all the first 5 positions all bundled together, and then it's almost like we've got a second race here going between Jonkers and Van Rensburg. Van Rensburg still sticking behind Jonkers, and you can imagine this battle is going to go on all the way to the end. Skuman not able to shake Mitchell as of yet, and Mitchell getting into that dirty air now, so he's starting to struggle a little bit and getting a bit more to think about than he might have bargained for. Skuman improving on his previous Sector 1 time, and we'll see what he does with the Sector 2. Sector 2 not his strongest, as the cars start settling into their positions. Bit of a rough start for Sneeman, but he's going to be on the fight back there at the back of the field. Dennis Mitchell still really looking to finding a bit of pace on Marius Skuman, but he needs to get used to that reduced amount of downforce that is available. Again, this track is so flat, so you're going to sit right in that turbulent air. So just trying to look at opportunities where you can outbrake Skuman there. Just looking at the rear of the car, already finding a few tenths there in the first few corners, but then Skuman just pulling ahead on the left-hander. So Skuman just a bit more comfortable with the car under these high-speed corners. Mitchell doing a superb job as well. He's starting to open up a gap between himself and Duggan, which is going to give him an opportunity to really start taking the fight to Skuman as well. Now getting very close, 2 tenths separating them there in that previous corner, so getting very close. But I think that might have been a mistake from both of the drivers. Mitchell not getting past Skuman, but now Duggan for a moment there got very close to both of them. The fight for the middle of the pack has settled a little bit. I think they might have decided that they want to get a bit closer to the lead cars in the race. And Mitchell just absolutely sat on the rear of Skuman there. Duggan also just as close to Mitchell in front of him. And you can see he's got the best view of that battle in the house. But it's also going to be very, very tricky to really see what's happening with the braking of the cars in front of you? It's so difficult if you can't see them. Those two cars in front of him absolutely connected, rear wing to front wing. But Duggan might be waiting for a little bit of contact between these drivers. It is difficult to find an overtaking opportunity. That start of the race really proving quite chaotic. Duggan looking for an opportunity, and I think that's going to make Mitchell quite nervous. Seeing Duggan get so close out of nowhere. And I'm starting to wonder whether these turns 6 and 7 are at all Mitchell's favourite. It does seem to be a bit weaker through both of those. You can see Skuman is getting away here as Mitchell is starting to think about Duggan behind him. It's so difficult when you get unsettled by a car just making you a bit nervous there from the rear end. Conrad Beard still keeping in touch with this lead pack. You can see him there just sticking behind his AlphaTauri teammates in front of him. So he is just absolutely biding his time at the moment, and he is going to run the longer race. So not sure what's going to be the most powerful on here, but Britt is going to pull ahead of Duggan. Everyone just swapping positions there, and Duggan is going to go for the switchback. He's decided better of it and pulled in behind Britt. So a bit of a switcheroo of the AlphaTauri cars. Duggan losing 7/10 through a single corner, so I'm not exactly sure what happened there. He might have been unsettled in that braking zone for turn number 2 as they head into the long left-hander. He might have just lost a huge chunk of time. There's Mitchell still in a fight there with Marius Skuman. And Marius under a huge amount of pressure there. Conrad Beard setting his best first sector of the race. So it might not have been a mistake by Raymond Duggan, but rather a stroke of excellence by Conrad Beard himself. Beard now hunting down Mitchell as well, so he's going to want to get involved in this battle in front of the ear as soon as possible, or at least get close to it, so that when these cars pit, he's got a huge amount of clear air in front of him and he can just start gunning out those fast laps. Mitchell looking to poke the nose where it would distract Skuman, but not getting the opportunity to do so. Still right on the rear, so he's got the advantage of a draft down the main straight. And unfortunately not finding as much time as we would like. And he's going to be trying to improve on the braking zone. Just lightly poking the nose on the inside of the track, but definitely no intention of making a move there. Further down the path, Van Rensburg and Gideon Jonkers still battling. And this is the battle that we are, the kind of battle that we would actually want to see in real life. Williams battling a Ferrari. Of course, this is Nicholas Latifi's Williams, the number 6. But that being said, it's still a battle that we would love to see. Conrad Beard is now caught up with Dennis Mitchell out in front, and the battle is on. Duggan has stuck with him and actually overtaken him as well. So down the back straight, and they are to and fro. So Duggan falling behind Beard yet again. Beard able to outmaneuver him just there at the end of the main, the back straight. Oh, and that's a big slip up there from Beard. Rear wheels coming off the track quite a bit, and unfortunately, same mistake from Duggan, almost collects Conrad Beard. That's cost him a bit of a chunk of time, and that's it to that battle. Unfortunately, both drivers overdriving the rear of the car. Beard somehow able to still keep control of his car, and he is still in the running, losing a minimal amount of time. Unfortunately, Duggan is already down into 7th position, and I would expect some damage to the front wing of his car. So we'll just quickly see whether he's not gone into the pits and he has decided to continue on. So doesn't think that there's any significant damage to his car, unfortunately just to his time, and that's really taking him out of the running for the front of the pack. He might be considering an alternate strategy, especially with how that section of the race has gone. And the rear of his car overtaking him yet again. Those tires are absolutely cooked. He's going to try and stay out of the way. He's got a bit of a gap to him in the next car, although that was fairly quick. Now a big gap to himself and Sneyman, so he's found the time to come back onto the circuit. Unfortunately, he is definitely out of the running for the front of the pack, so he'll be involving himself in that midfield battle. Skuman still leading. He's been absolutely consistent through the entirety of this first quarter of the race. 8 laps of the 37 are done, and we are entering the territory for some absurdly early undercuts. We'll see who blinks first, but the drivers for now are putting in some nice fast laps. 135s, or very high 135s for the front two leaders. I think Corne Brett's still a bit down the road. He's going to have a lot of time to make up for. There's Mitchell right on the rear of Skuman. He's going to try and drive around the outside, maybe position himself on the inside for the next corner. He's not going to be able to do it on the braking, and he's going to fall in behind Skuman yet again. Skuman with absolute confidence, not even running a defensive line, just saying to Mitchell, listen, if you want to take that, be my guest, but you are not getting this position like that. And you can see Mitchell, having dropped behind him, has already lost a lot of time, so he completely compromised his run into that section of the track. As Skuman just absolutely dominating this early portion of the race. And some superb racing from him as well. Corne Brett catching up with Gerrit Pretorius, so he's going to want to get this pass done as soon as possible. We yet to see some extremely fast laps from Corne Brett, but those tires can go the distance. So as the fuel starts wearing down, he is going to be in a better shape with those tires. Mitchell now even further behind Skuman, 1.2 seconds, so that attack has hurt him quite a bit, and he's going to have to regroup and think about where are some other places on the track that he is faster. Corne Brett now in the slipstream for Pretorius. Pretorius does not want to fight him too hard on this, running on the inside to give him a gap, but Brett actually wants that slipstream still a little bit. He's on the inside of the corner. They're not past one another just yet, but Brett definitely getting this pass done without too much difficulty. Pretorius not giving him too much grief, recognizing that Brett has a fair amount of pace in hand, and actually maybe trying to learn a few things from him as they run through a few laps. Pretorius now looking for a few tricks that he might be able to use to keep a bit closer to the front end of the race. On the front, Mitchell has caught up with Skuman again, and this time it's unfortunately run wide out of the corner just as they go onto the back straight, and that is Skuman just disappearing off into the distance. Mitchell just not finding the consistency when the overtakes do need to happen, so Skuman rock solid under pressure at the moment. Mitchell not finding a mistake from his opponent as of yet, making the mistakes himself, so he's not falling behind. He does have the pace, but he just needs a mistake from Skuman, and this is going to be it as he gets past him. Skuman managing to recover from that spin out of the corner. That was just a little bit of a slip up for him, and they're going to be side by side heading for that first corner. Skuman on the inside of the King. That is a bit of a shorter distance for him to run, but it's going to come down into the braking zone, and it's going to be about who blinks first. Mitchell trying to attack there on the outside, getting the momentum through the corner, and Skuman is going to be on the back foot to defend. He's going to stick right with him, now positioning himself for the inside of the next corner. And unfortunately, that's Mitchell turning in on Skuman. Skuman waiting for him to rejoin the track. That's going to open up the door for Corne Breed. And Mitchell waiting to safely rejoin. That's some nice driving there from Skuman. Skuman thinking that he might have caused that accident by poking his nose on the inside there. So handing the position back. And that is some gentlemanly driving for the two drivers right there. They are going to continue yet again, but I think both Skuman and Mitchell are going to wait until they recover. I think that might be Mitchell handing the position back. Both drivers thinking they caused the incident. And this is going to be Skuman released out in front of Mitchell. And he's going to be hunting down Pretorius. Pretorius has managed to stick with Corne Breed, and it's really paid off for him. Pretorius almost a second behind Breed now, but he's gained a second position out of it, and he's going to need what he's learned from Corne Breed to really stay ahead. Although looking at pace, he has kept up. He's kept his nose very close to the rear wing of that AlphaTauri car, so he is here on merit. Corne Breed absolutely gunning it out front. Not the fastest lap time that you would expect, 1:38, but they did have an incident that they have to navigate. Mitchell heading into the pits now, so he is tired of that softer compound tire, and he's going to be swapping out for a different compound. Unfortunately, leaving the race, he has had troubles with his equipment, so I suspect that might be that his game is not on the level that he would expect it to be. It all depends on whether we can get an interview with him after the fact. For now, Skuman is running in third position. For a bit in first, and Pretorius, the surprising party, in second position, doing an absolutely stellar job out front, in front there. All the drivers now promoted into some higher positions as they get past the car that left the session. Bit of a lock up there from Pretorius, and he's now lost Corne Breed. Corne Breed lapping some traffic, and now comfortably in the lead of the race, and it's all going to come down to which strategy pays off near the end and which driver can maintain the highest pace over both of their stints. I would expect only one stoppers from these drivers, but some of the drivers a bit further down the pack might be a bit more comfortable on the softer tires, so they might be running a shorter stint on the medium tires and then hopping back onto the soft tires. They do need to run a stint on two different compounds, but if they're not comfortable on that medium tire, they might just run it long enough so that they can trade it in for one of the softer tires. It all depends on what they're comfortable with. Van Rensburg, Joshua Van Rensburg getting past Peter Van Rensburg. Both drivers, I think that might have been a mistake from Peter. Joshua getting past him. It doesn't help that both Van Rensburgs are running in the Williams liveries, because I thought that I was looking at Joshua Van Rensburg. So if it has not been confusing enough, Joshua is the number 6 on screen right now, the number 6 car, and then Peter Van Rensburg running in George Russell's number 69. Sorry, 63. Major apologies there. I should know better. Maybe should start wearing my glasses through these streams. Corne Breed finding the anti-cut curb there, so that's cost him a little bit of time. Now into the 137, so settling into a faster pace yet again. Fastest lap time for Corne Breed in the session is a 135.602 on the same compound, so he's struggling a little bit with pace at the moment. It's too early for the tires to really start letting go. He might have just not found his rhythm quite yet. It's also a bit more difficult without cars in front of you. You can't catch a draft down some of the main straights. And it's a bit more difficult to pace yourself because on the front you really only have your lap timer to keep you company and your crew chief. And it all depends on what the driver prefers. So not sure whether Cornet prefers to have a delta out in front of his screen like we have down here on the right hand side of the screen. So it all depends on what he prefers. It might be a bit distracting to have that delta counting down in front of you and kind of mocking you in your slower sectors. So it all depends. Corner Brit does seem to be struggling, so he's had to correct for some oversteer there in the corner. The tyre is getting quite cooked at the moment. Only one of the drivers in the current running has been to the pits, and that's been Joshua van Rensburg. So he's currently running on the C3 compounds, also running the start of the race on the C4s. So we're yet to see the driver's pit. Skuman now into the pits, just as we're talking about this. And he is going to unfortunately miss his pit box. That's going to be some lost time. We'll leave him to it and see where he comes out. Dropping behind Brandt, and he's definitely going to come out in front of Van Rensburg unless he's repairing some major damage. He does seem to be fueling the car for the end of the race. And he's going to come out on the harder compounds, so on the C3s. And you would expect him to run this all the way to the end. So coming out in front of Joshua van Rensburg, so we'll still see where the other cars come out. So he's going to be closing in on Dirk Brandt at some point of the race. Although looking at the lap timers, Dirk Brandt is not that much slower than Skuman. So we'll see where the guys end up. Remember, if you are on the YouTube channel, please feel free to say hi. Shout out for who you're supporting. We do know that Sharon Skuman is out there shouting for Mario Skuman, and she's had quite a stressful race to watch from the get-go. Gerard Pretorius into the pits. So he's going to be letting go of those C4 compounds. So he's had more than enough. Gideon Jonkers is going to stream on past. So Jonkers now also thinking about when he's going to be starting to pit. Although he's on the C3 compound, so still a bit of a distance to go for him. And you can see already improving on his lap time. So he's been released. We'll see where Pretorius comes out in regards to Marius Skuman. Marius already down the main straight. Pretorius also exiting the pits right about now. It looks like he's going to come out behind him, but not too far back. And we'll see where that time is. So it's actually quite a bit of a distance. I didn't gauge that correctly. So that's 4 seconds between Skuman and Pretorius. So Pretorius looking good at the moment, but we're keeping an eye on where Corne Breed and Gideon Jonkers come into the pits. But Marius Skuman in a bit of a solid position there with that early pit. Corne Breed still doing a superb job out in front. A bit further down the pack, we've still got the two Van Rensburgs a bit far apart. And then Rob van der Heever into the pit. Peter van Rensburg also into the pits. And now exiting. And I think he might have had the wrong pit box. Rob van der Heever has been released from the pits, so he's going to be back into the running. Number 11 for Sergio Perez. Actually, one of my favorite drivers. We are a bit of a Red Bull household back at home. My wife, of course, a big Max Verstappen fan, but we still want to see Sergio Perez do quite well, and I was quite excited when he joined Red Bull for this season, and then of course with that continued contract for the rest of the season. back to the front of the pack. Conor Brett is actually just catching up on with Rob van der Heever, so he's going to go on past. Both of the Honda-powered cars kind of close together here in the middle portion of the race, and we're kind of getting close to that halfway mark. So all the drivers in a bit more of a lonely race at the moment. Jonker's absolutely flying. Half of a second's improvement on his lap time. He's definitely sitting with some kind of delta timer in front of him, because he's been focusing on improving those lap times. So we'll see what he comes across the line for and see what kind of pace he has in hand. He is on the C3 compound and he has yet to pit. The last driver on the C4s that still has to pit is Dirk Brandt. So Dirk Brandt running very, very long. Jonkers with the 136.633. Remember that race fuel has to be burnt off, but they are getting to near the end of their stint. So the tires are starting to wear a bit, but it is quite tricky. Dirk Brandt at the moment, last driver on the C4s that has to pit. And he has not headed into the pit. He's still, unfortunately, spinning out a little bit. So he might be thinking about trading in those tires for a bit of a harder compound. Taking the C4 compound soft all the way to half race distance. So of course a bit more confident on the red wall tires, and I think he might be trying to minimize his amount of time on the yellow wall tires. He might not be as happy with them, but the car is starting to struggle a little bit. So I'm not exactly sure what he's trying to do at the moment. It does seem to be something deeply connected to personal preference at the moment. Running very, very wide there. So those tires are definitely starting to show the signs of age. And I think they might be just asking for being retired at the end of the session. So just keeping an eye out on when he comes into pit, and then we'll keep an eye on some of the other drivers, but I think Skuman might be overshooting him if Dirk does decide to pit right now. So Brandt heading into the pits indeed. So we're going to keep an eye on Joshua van Rensburg. He's probably the driver that's going to be closest to Brandt when he comes out. Skuman and Pretorius very, very close to him. So you can see both of them already getting past him. So Joshua van Rensburg still a bit of a distance behind Brandt. You would expect Brandt to get out of the pits before then. Brandt's still in the pits. Van Rensburg coming around the last few corners. This is going to be close. Brandt has gotten going now, but it's not going to be enough. He's going to end up behind Van Rensburg. I saw a bit of a jump when I jumped to his car, so he might have had a bit of an error in the pits, either missing his pit box or accidentally triggering a double stop. So he's taken a little bit long. Either that, or I might be overestimating the amount of time that these cars are spending in the pits. Harold Pretorius now very, very close to Mario Skuman, but navigating some back markers. And that has given Pretorius the opportunity to stick very, very close to Skuman. So it's basically a 30-second gap between Briet. Sorry, a 40-second gap between Briet and Skuman. So it's all going to come down to that pit stop. Briet might want to open up a bit more of a gap, but Skuman is going to be charging down at the moment. Last lap for him, a 136.4. I was looking at a lap a bit further back. Corne Breed also into the 136s, so they're very, very closely matched. Breed is not going to be opening up too much of a gap, so Breed is going to have to worry about that pit stop. It is going to be quite crucial for him. That being said, with the overcut, he is going to have a fresher tire with a lower fuel load for the rest of the end of the race. If he can even get it around to coming out just behind Skuman, it's still going to count in his favor for that last portion of the race. These drivers showing that it is indeed possible to overtake. Just need a bit of elbow grease to really get it to work. Prix is actually getting past Skuman at the moment through the back section of the circuit. So he's done it on the long back straight. Skuman losing a little bit in terms of pace. You can see it's a very, very slow lap, so he made a mistake there. Just a small one, but that's probably come at the worst part of the lap for him. So Snowman, first of the C3s into the pits. And the driver's still struggling to see which pit box they are supposed to be in. So Snowman is going to be falling behind Skuman. Hopefully coming out in front of Joshua van Rensburg. It all depends on how long that pit stop is going to be. So things are looking good for Joshua. These pit stops seem to be going a bit longer than the F1 stops. Snowman has gotten going in the pits, but he's not gotten up to speed yet. And you can see him exiting the pits right there. So he's actually lost quite a few positions coming out behind Dirk Brand. So that is a loss north of 40 seconds. Things are looking a bit precarious for Beard at the moment. Skuman and Gerard Pretorius battling it quite hard here. Pretorius possibly the net leader at the moment, especially at the speed that they've been going. Skuman struggling with the anti-cut curve at the moment, so Pretorius has done very, very well for himself, positioning himself in third position for the race. But more crucially, within 40 seconds of the lead. And if pit stops are going to be going like they've gone for the other drivers, Beard might be coming out behind Pretorius and Skuman. Skuman with a 138 on that lap, so struggling a little bit at the moment. So the car being a bit more difficult to control in these later stages of the race. Of course, his preferred tyre might not be that yellow-walled C3 compound. But Pretorius seems to be doing very, very well on it. So Van Rensburg into the pits. And I think that might be a second pit stop for Van Rensburg. So he's done the pit stop in the first portion of the race. And he's going to pick up a different tire. So missing the pit there as well, overshooting it a little bit, and he had to reverse to get his pit crew to service the car. Got Snyman into the pit yet again. I'm not exactly sure what happened there. It might be for some kind of drive-through penalty. And now we're just waiting on this man right here to pull the trigger. See where he ends up in regards to Pretorius and Skuman. So I see a comment there from Sharon Skuman. Just in case some of the drivers are listening, I'm not going to repeat that on air. But there has been a little bit of a trouble with some of the pit crews kind of forgetting what the drivers wanted them to do. And I suspect that's what the long pit stops is, that when the driver enters the pits, they actually have to re-enter the pit strategy. And I mean, entering the pits themselves, it's already tricky enough to really get the turns right. And then after that, while you're idling down the pit to your car, you then need to enter the pressure for both the tires and the fuel. It's given a whole new level of realism for these pit stops. I don't think the drivers would want to deal with that, especially for the drivers running in VR. And that's very difficult to do in with the VR headset when you can't really figure out where your mouse and keyboard are. So I think Cornet might be trying to prevent the inevitable. Marius Skuman is indeed having some trouble with his car. So he is going to be thinking about what to do to it, but it is on his mind at the moment. Gerard Pretorius is running in third position at the moment, and by the looks of how these pit stops have been going, possibly the net leader at the moment. So a bit of a surprising driver to come out in front, but a definite welcome surprise. So he's currently running third in the championship. That's definitely going to give him the edge on Marius Skuman in the fight between third and fourth. But it might even close him in on that second position. I'm not going to do calculations at all points at the moment because I honestly just don't want to jinx it for the poor man. Could I bring it into the pits just as we look at him now? So we'll be keeping an eye on Gerard Pretorius as he's going down the back portion of the track. And keep an eye on that triangle, now square in the pits, and now again triangle. He's gotten going fairly quickly, so we're not having the same issue with the pit strategy. With the race pace that he's been running at the moment, and the fact that he might have experienced the issues with the pit strategies that the drivers have been having during the race, he might have opted to actually run full race fuel in his car and just swap out for different tires. So he's come out. That's going to be a bit of a mistake. So he's come out on the C3 compound again. So he's just added fuel to his car. I'm not going to have the time to check the rules again. I'm going to have to see whether they removed the rule for the two different compounds. But he's kept the same tires by the looks of things. So that was just a splash and dash for Cornet Breed, which explains why that pit stop was so quick. I'm just doing a bit of a search while the cars are on track. So Gideon Jonkers, last driver to still pit, and if there's been a rule change about the tires that they have to use, no, Jonkers is going into the pits right now, so putting me out of my misery about thinking whether he must have even been running a nose stopper. But Jonkers has come into the pits, so we'll keep an eye where he's going to end up in regards to Gerard Pretorius. Pretorius is awfully close. You can hear the car of Jonkers in the pits, and Pretorius back into the pits as well. He must have not added enough fuel for the entirety of the race. So very, very weird situation in regards to the pits going on right here. That is going to put Marius Skuman into third position, and with basically a quarter of the race left to go, things are looking up for the man in blue. So We'll see what happens. We've of course got the information that has been mentioned by his wife in the chat. And we'll see. He might have been trying to negate that, so we'll see what happens. So Gerrit Snyman saying into the pits, and his pit crew had no tires and no fuel for him. So he's unfortunately dropped out of the session. He wasn't able to continue with the lack of fuel. So he's been having some issues with the pit stop as well. Bit of a rough one for the drivers. On the front corner, Brett looking very, very solid for the race win. Now that the pit stops have been completed, I'm still looking at those rules for you. Trying to see. So, on the pin rules, it still says that the car needs to be running on 2 different compounds for the race, and he's only run C3s at the moment. If he doesn't want a penalty, he's going to have to pit for red-walled tires. I'm not sure whether he realizes that his pit crew didn't swap around the tires. We'll have to see. A bit of an interesting situation. I'm not exactly sure what's wrong with the pit crews at the moment, but some confusion for the latter part of the race. Julian Jonkers running in second position, and he's going to be very happy with this position. We'll see whether the drivers jump into the interview room afterwards. We'll see whether they've got something to say about what happened with these pit stops, because I'm definitely in the dark right at the moment. Julian Jonkers doing well on the red ball tires now in the end portion of the race, finding 7/10, so he is starting to fly quite comfortably. Corner Brett out in front, looking extremely comfortable with what he's got at the moment. And then third position, Mario Skuman now coming across the line on 37.4, so not his fastest time, but he is on the yellow wall tires. And he is trying to get this car to the end of the race. Absolutely fighting for a tooth and nail. So definitely gunning for it at the moment. I see someone named Zondorf has joined us in the YouTube chat. That almost looks like the portrait for Gerrit Snyman. I'm not entirely sure, so might have to identify himself, but I think some of the drivers are starting to jump into the YouTube stream. If you are a driver and you're sitting in this YouTube stream, we're a bit confused at the moment as to what happened with these pit stops. So hopefully you can inform us about what's happening out here. All the drivers who really spread out at the moment. Basically, the closest time between 2 drivers is going to be that gap between Briet and Jonkers, 8 seconds. So Skuman then the next down the line by 11 seconds. And it's all going to depend on whether someone maybe didn't have enough fuel or didn't get their tires swapped for the end of the race. So we might have some last minute pit stops for drivers trying to avoid penalties. Just the shots are there for Stephen in the YouTube chat. I'm not sure if that's Stephen Castellan or a different Stephen, but welcome to Formula 1 Saturdays. Currently we're having a bit of a different chaotic situation here at Sochi, with the pit crews struggling with their compounds and also with their fuel pumps. Some of the drivers not getting fuel or different tires. So lots of confusion here, and I think it's made the race a bit more difficult than the drivers would have wanted. I mean, the track itself is already a big challenge. Now having to do management like that behind the scenes, it's just taken it to a whole different level. Just a big shout out there for Stephen Kenny, now that we know exactly who he is. Welcome from Sim Racing South Africa, one of our sister communities, as they run some F3 leagues and some GT and touring car leagues. These drivers, of course, also represented here. So Briet, I think Gideon Jonkers maybe, but then Maurice Skuman and Dirk Brandt, all some very, very familiar names from that community as well. So it's nice to see them join us here at Sim Experience South Africa. Dirk Brandt has had a bit of a quiet race, and thanks to the chaos, he's been promoted into 5th position. He's also done a very good job to put himself in that range. But having a bit of a lonesome race here near the end of the race. So 8 laps left by our lap counter up at the top. We'll see where everyone ends up. Brits has slowed down a little bit, and Gideon Jonkers had closed the gap between him. I think that jump back to 8 seconds between Brett and Jonkers has been due to some small mistake that Jonkers made in one of the corners. Brett is just charging to get to the end of the race now. He's opened up the throttle a little bit. You can see he's already finding a few tenths on his fastest time. Jonkers into the 135s. So the drivers finally getting closer to the qualifying pace. Fastest 3rd sector for Corne Briet. And he's now confident he can take the fuel to the end of the race. Maurice Skuman into the pits. So he definitely didn't get enough fuel for the end of the race. And he's going to be filling up that car and swapping out the compound for some red-walled C4s. So we'll see whether he comes out in front of Pretorius. Does seem like Pretorius has the pace on Skuman at the moment. Skuman, you can see there, Pretorius right in the foreground. So he is about 2 seconds away from Skuman. So there's still a possibility that these drivers can get into a battle for the end of the race. So a bit of a surprise for both Pretorius and I think Skuman as well, although he did seem to be expecting it based on what his wife shared with us. Gideon Jonkers still hanging out there in 2nd position. And Corne Briet is pulling away from him a little bit. Corne Briet yet again the fastest 3rd sector. Gideon Jonkers also doing a superb job in the 3rd sector as well, as he laps some traffic, so getting around Van der Heever and moving into the last few laps of the race. So things have calmed down a little bit. We're still looking at whether Corne Briet is going to swap around his tyres. 7 tenths with basically half of the lap down. He's really put his foot down, so I'm not sure where this sudden pace comes from. Whether he's been holding back or whether he's just decided, okay, he needs to get a move on. But somehow he's found a monumental amount of pace in this last phase of the race. Now 7/10 down into the third sector. 2 purple sectors for both Sector 1 and Sector 2, which would explain the massive improvement. And I think he's not found the same pace as his previous lap. Massive drift out of that corner right there. So putting on a bit of a show for us. Now over the anti-cut curb, so definitely not his strongest last sector. He's completely lost his advantage. Bit of a rough third sector there for Conrad Briet. So absolutely flying at the start. And yet again, 3/4 tenths, and he's only made the first corner. So he is a man on the charge. Pretorius now that little bit closer to Morris. Come on, looking a bit slow through one of the corners there in the third sector of the track. Morris getting that gap down to 1.4 seconds now. And he is going to be hunting the man on the rise there out in the distance. So we'll see whether they get close enough to start battling. It becomes a bit easier once you've got a draft from the car in front. Morris showing that he's very, very strong through this turn 3 and 4, this long left-hander. Gap down to 1 second now, so we might have a bit of action on our hands for these last few laps. So Skuman recovering from that earlier pit stop. He's got the fresher tires, and he's now hopefully got enough fuel for the end of the race. So he's got more than enough to fight with. Disadvantage to Pretorius, and you can imagine him feeling the pressure right now. This is going to be the battle for third position. And Pretorius is going to be doing everything that he can to hold on to that position. So we're now very close. You can see one of the Van Rensburgs there in the Williams car staying out of the way. Now onto the main straight, and this is a good opportunity for Skuman to gain some time. But there you can see 135 versus the 136 from Pretorius. So he's gained a lot of his time in the second sector of the track, and we'll keep an eye on whether that gap is able to close. It's also difficult in that third sector with the tight corners to really follow closely. That's why you don't see as much of a improvement between the two drivers on the main straight, but it's going to be a different story onto the back straight. So now 0.6 seconds between the two drivers. Skuman within striking distance. Pretorius also getting the foot down. You can see 0.2 of improvement on his previous lap time. He knows Skuman has got a bit of an edge on his car in terms of performance. So he is going to have to get those elbows out, get that car nice and wide. He got a Briet into the pit, so that is a late surprise in this portion of the race. We might as well stick with Pretorius because it's going to be interesting to see where Briet comes out in the corners, although I think we might have caught the tail end of that. So Briet into second position for the race. Just have a quick little peek. So he's gotten going, and he has finally got the Red Bull tires on. So Yonkers getting a bit of a late race surprise. And Pretorius now getting the elbows out here for Skuman. Skuman doing absolutely everything that he can, but he needs to be careful that he doesn't compromise his race. needs to be absolutely sure about where he wants to get that overtake done. So he's been scoping out Pretorius for a little bit, and he might be waiting for a lap or two to get that move done. We'll need to see. He does have grip in the hand, but the lack of downforce with that dirty air is going to be a tricky one. Onto the back straight now. They've got some traffic in front of them as well. Pretorius getting a nice toe there from Van der Heever, and working in his advantage. That's opened up the gap between himself and Schoeman, so that saves his behind for this lap. So Schoeman might be a little bit frustrated with Pretorius getting the toe there from the back marker. But the racing gods smiling on Pretorius for that specific lap. Now 2 laps left as they go on to lap number 36. Not sure why the time they're saying lap 35 for Jonkers. We'll see how things end up. But Pretorius just needs to hold on for a few more laps. Morris now chasing him down. Both of them on the Red Bull tyres, so just a bit of a younger tyre for Schoeman. Pretorius absolutely nailing those apexes. Losing a bit of time in terms of the defense of the car. He's not really getting the elbows out as of yet. He's just trying to outpace Schoeman. But Schoeman now within striking distance. A few more turns until the back straight. Pretorius had a back marker saving him on the previous lap. There's no back marker there now. And Schoeman is right at his heels. So 4 tenths for Schoeman. 6 tenths. Schoeman not getting the exit that he wanted. That's a bit of a missed opportunity for him. But we'll see what he does here through the third sector on the track. Unfortunately, a bit of a lock-up there on his tyres. Just throwing the car in there. Pretorius getting the cleaner exits. And Schoeman is pushing as hard as possible. We're onto the final lap of the race. It's now or never for Schoeman. Just one slip up from Pretorius and Schoeman is going to be through. So Pretorius absolutely sweating in his seat at the moment. That sim racing cockpit is going to be drenched in sweat by the end of this. Pretorius not putting a foot wrong in these final stages of the race. Nailing that apex, just carrying the speed as well as he can. Schoeman doing the same, following nice and close. Pretorius using all of the track on the exit there. And now half of the lap down, so very, very close. Jonkers out in front. He's going to be taking first position. So we'll see when he finishes. And Conor Brett is close behind, but the closest battle here is Schoeman and Pretorius. Schoeman now right on the rear there. With a good closing speed. So final few corners. Jonkers takes the race win. Creates second position. So losing out a little bit due to his pit mistake. Unless he was going for that two-stopper strategy. Maybe not able to stretch those C3 tyres as far as possible. Last few corners here for Schoeman and Pretorius. Pretorius hitting the anti-cut curb, but that line is going to be just around the corner. And Pretorius getting that third position. Schoeman fourth position. And Dirk Brandt is going to be coming across the line for fifth. I'm just making a quick note. And I'll be back right with you. So Brandt very close there to the end. He's going to come across the line in 5th, so very consistent finish for him. Joshua van Rensburg coming in a 6th position. And then the rest of the drivers coming around as well. So, very interesting race, especially here close to the end. Strategies kind of all over the place. And we'll see if we can quickly get a few of the drivers for an interview. And I'll be with you in a second. I just quickly need to go and fetch them. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We've got some drivers lined up for us. I'm quickly going to first pull in Corne Briet. So, welcome, Corne. And yeah, that's firstly, congratulations on 2nd position. But that also looked like an extremely tough race there, especially at the beginning and then in the last few laps as you were chasing down 1st position. Just from your perspective, how was that race start for you? And then in terms of the pit stops, I mean, that looked like a rough situation. So maybe tell us about that.
Yeah, so basically off the line, running the harder tire, I didn't get it like a pull away. And I deployed ERS a bit too early and started spinning, and I almost lost the car there. Somebody accidentally ran into me. But yeah, then I had to recover from there, and I saw the guys were fighting up ahead, so I knew the chance would come. And yeah, stuck it through. Me and Raymond, unfortunately, trying to get ahead one another. He spun, tapped me a bit, managed to get out of there, but I don't know what happened to him. And then, yeah, during the pit stops, I did my pit stop, drove off, saw I had like a gap again, and was just maintaining the gap to Gideon. And about 3 laps before the race end, I noticed that the pit crew put the same tires back on, the softs again. So I had to go and stop because I knew the server would actually disqualify me if I don't put on a second set of tires. And yeah, basically I pitted and then lost 1st position because of that. Still better than the DQ.
Yeah, I mean that's the second position is still a very very solid finish, considering that especially considering the troubles that the pack had with pit stops. We were actually quite confused by the car coming out with the yellow wall tires. So when you took the C3s for a second turn, I mean we knew you liked the C3 compound. We didn't know you liked it that much.
Yeah, if only I actually knew that a bit earlier, I would have stopped earlier, and perhaps with the extra pace, I could have caught him again. Because I see Gideon spin on the second or third last corner on the last lap,
Yeah, that
and I was also managing, so I wasn't actually driving fast. If I knew that would happen, obviously I would have kept on to it. But
yeah,
yeah, I managed to just keep ahead.
yeah, and it got very, very close there to the end. But well done on your push, and especially well done on the qualifying. I mean, you were absolutely flying on the tires. Um,
Y-
did you
Yeah,
have
I
a?
must say I was actually surprised about that time because that's the first time I went into the 33s. Um, so yeah, I was happy with the time. Didn't need to go for the softer compound.
Yeah, and yeah, definitely well done. From your side, any supporters you want to say hi to? Any shout outs that you want to make?
Yeah, all the usual fans that's supporting me. My wife that's always looking at the videos, and yeah, obviously for yourself for all the commentary.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, Corne. I'll be moving you back so you can rejoin the others. And
All
then,
right,
yeah, hope you have a lovely evening.
thanks you too. Cheers.
So that was Corne Breert. Next up, Gideon Jonkers. I will quickly see if his mic has fixed itself. Welcome, Gideon. Just want to check, is your mic caught up with you?
Yeah, it's working now.
Awesome stuff. Just a massive congrats for that race win. We saw it got a little bit stressful there at the end, but you got it across the line. You got it in first place. So massive congrats. What was that like from your side?
Thank you. The start wasn't too great, but then I managed to get P6, and then I was running on the C3 tires, just like Kunai, and then all the other guys pitted, and here by lap 25, my dad came, who watched. He says, "No, there's problems with the pit stop. Make sure your pit stop strategy is right." So I think it's thanks to him I won. So then when I was driving, I put my pit stop in, and then from there I saw Monet was with like a 10-second lead in front of me, and I was trying to keep up the pace consistently, and then I saw he pitted again just the lap before, and lap 36 I pushed for the fastest lap. I got the fastest lap, but then Konai took it away from me again. And then on the last lap, I I overheated my tires a bit from the fast lap, and then I got a little bit slippery in those tight sections. And then I accidentally did a victory spin before the finish line. It wasn't very nice for my nerves, but luckily I got it with very small margin.
That's yeah, that was very very close. We just missed it. We had a massive battle for third and fourth behind you. We kind of thought you had it in the bag, and you surprised us a little bit. But again, massive congrats on converting that and running the long strategy. We know Cornet also had a bit of trouble off the get go. In terms of the next race, how are you feeling for Turkey, Istanbul Park?
Um, I think um, I feel really good after this one. I wouldn't mind getting like B7 next race. So I'm just gonna celebrate this one and think about the next race next week. So and thank you all.
It's always a big pleasure. Just from your side, any supporters you want to say thanks to, any shout outs that you have?
Yeah, especially my dad who watched, and I think my friend, if he watched, I'm not sure if he did good watch, but yeah.
Yeah, if it was there, massive thanks to him for joining us. Also for your dad for tuning in and kind of acting as a team principal or team manager. Thank you so much. It's always awesome when the family jumps in to support. I'm going to thank you for your time, Gideon, and I think you're probably going to have a very, very long beer after this one and maybe de-stress a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye. Okay, last driver that we are going to hear from is going to be Gerard Pretorius. Gerard, just checking if you're there and if your mic is working.
Yeah, all good.
Gerard, on your side, just a massive congrats for that third position. We saw how hard you fought for it there in the end, and you just kept it clean right until the end. What was going through your mind in those last few laps?
Morris was on a team chat with me. He was coming for me. I told him good luck, so I know I was consistent. It's difficult to overtake in certain spots. Now I had some pace out of the corners. So yeah, now I took it easy and keep it clean. That's only why I pulled through.
And then Morris kind of had the fresher tires there for the end of the race. Were you worried about the fresher rubber, or were you still able to really lean on your tires?
The first stint where I didn't stop, so I know how many laps I could have done and how I could have pushed it. So yeah, now I know where the boundaries was and I managed it. It's all good. Now he had better tires, but he still needed to pass me. That was a challenge.
And you definitely made it difficult for him, but it didn't look like you took too many defensive lines. It looked like you kind of just stayed ahead by outdriving him on a few corners. You did have the back marker on, I think it was the third last lap, and you seemed to get a nice bit of a draft from that. That was probably also a bit of manna from heaven there. I saw you just taking a bit of a cheeky draft just before you got past. Do you feel like that helped, or were you comfortable without that as well?
With the pull away, definitely on the straight it helped. I have to thank Rob for it. He's also in a chat with us. Yeah, no, every bit helped a lot. So no, I can't complain.
Just another question, because we know Marius has a team that involves itself with other events. Are you part of the Sim Experience South Africa team, or?
Yeah, me and Marius is a team for last year already. And yeah, so he helped me a lot, and we keep pushing each other, and we got a good team going. Good vibe. We push each other and help each other. It's quite enjoyable.
Sorry, I said Sim Experience because I'm used to the races as well. I need to correct myself. That's Sim Racing Extreme, right?
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, sorry, I can't get that wrong. He's going to send me a very, very strongly worded message after that. But yeah, I've heard of the team that you guys have and the amount of fun that you have in different leagues. But yeah, massive congrats on that third position. It's been absolutely a joy watching you guys push yourselves near the end of the race. And then in terms of Turkey, how are you feeling about that track? Bit more undulations than this track. Sochi was quite flat.
It's all new to me, so tomorrow I'll have a look on it and see what's going to happen. But yeah, take it one race at a time. Don't plan too much ahead.
Best of luck for that race as well. From your side, any shout outs for people supporting you, people watching that you want to say thanks to?
No, just for the team, thank you. And thanks to you keeping the server up and running. Everything is quite new for us with all the hybrids. It's a big learning curve for us. So we're trying to learn it for next year and other events that comes up also. And thanks again.
It's a big pleasure, although I can't really take the credit. I'm only the commentator. It's Mornay Deploy and Dennis Mitchell that kind of are the masterminds behind this. So massive thanks to them. Gerard, I'm going to relieve you because I'm going to do the signing off, and I don't think you want to kind of be held up with this. I think you probably have a nice cool drink that you want to take after that that long race. So hope you have a good evening, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Cheers. So that brings us to the end of our broadcast. For all of the people on the YouTube channel, thank you so much for watching. If you want to keep in touch with the rest of the series, do feel free to subscribe to the Sim Experience South Africa YouTube channel. We schedule our broadcasts ahead of time, so you should see scheduled broadcasts coming up every now and then. We've got the Formula One Saturdays that we run every Saturday that there is a Formula One race. And then, of course, we've got our MX5 Cup every Sunday at 7 o'clock. We've start off with the Div 2 races, and then around the 8 o'clock mark, we've got Div 1 that will start preparing with their practice and qualifying. We also have some other leagues that we run. So we've got the Thunder Tuesdays and the F3 series that we also run. So if you want to get involved, there should be a Discord link in the description. Otherwise, leave a comment and we should see that pop up on the YouTube channel. So definitely check that out. So yeah, just confirming again, MX5 Cup on the Sunday. We're going to have a nice little broadcast there. F3 Virtual Championship, also running Istanbul Park on the 2nd of October, 8 o'clock. Tuesday Thunder, that's going to be 7:30, and that's in the R Factor 2 simulator. So if you've not run a series in R Factor 2 and you kind of want to get started on that, there's something there for you. Thank you so much for your time, and then until next time that we see each other in Turkey, hope you have a lovely evening and hope you enjoy the race tomorrow. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.